In today's episode, why can't I install the app on my computer? A favor for a family friend. I'm allergic to chemicals, you're going to buy me a new computer. Saved a perfectly good printer from ID10T Resilsing. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Why can't I install the app on my computer? Short background story. I was working at a large BPO-IT service desk company for 4 years. During that 4 years we were a voice account, meaning we get calls to troubleshoot, and as much as possible to resolve the issue on the call. We can also remote into the computer if need be. This happened before the pandemic of COVID-19. Fortunately, we only support employees of client company, so most of the caller are calm and collected. The company is considerate and also employs senior citizens, and usually works at home, and depends on their role/job they will be using either personal or company-provided computer. If using a personal computer, there is logging into their Citrix site. Main story. The caller is a nice old lady, as old people go, that they are very ignorant around computers, and I am very understanding about that. The caller is a new hire and don't know why the company does this, sent onboarding steps for new joiner, but no instructions on how to set up the required apps to the computer to open Citrix apps, and was advised to call IT Service Desk, which is us. As I was handling the call and asking questions to isolate the issue to help her properly. Unfortunately, since she was very illiterate about computers, was unable to answer most on my questions or probing. The only thing I got was she was using a personal computer. So the last choice I had is remote into personally see by RDA on what is the issue. I was shocked when I was finally able to remote in. Just to remind you, this happened before COVID hit, so this was around late 2019. Her computer is very old, she said on earlier. The computer is old, but I didn't expect this old. I expected she was using like Win 7 or Vista. The computer was running Win 95. And for Citrix, the computer needed the application Citrix Receiver/Workspace to open app from the site. I asked one of the support team, which I was familiar and friends with, on what is the lowest or minimum OS for the Citrix Workspace. They said the lowest should be Win 7 any version. He was shocked and laughed when I said the caller is still using Win 95. After the shock and inquiry from the support team, I was composing in my mind on what to say to her to not irate or insult her. So I explained in a very basic way on why the Citrix receiver will not install, and advised to reach out to like her son/daughter or her neighbor on helping her upgrade her to a more modern computer, so she can work on it. Note: I was very lucky. The lady was very nice and understanding. Please don't judge me too harshly on this, cause I am from the Philippines, and so far the oldest OS I know on a personal computer is Win 7, and those were not gamers or not have much income, so I never expected someone is still using Win 95. A favor for a family friend. It's late 2019, SARS-CoV-2 was making minor headlines on page 15 as Wuhan respiratory syndrome. Feels like a lifetime ago. With that historicity in mind, we can visit another historicity. The first is the client, a family friend's mother. She's very roughly a local Betty White. She's older than most of the town, and an absolute joy to talk to. I get buzzed into the sheltered housing facility by her son, who's retired himself. Everything's quiet, the occasional whir of an electric wheelchair, a faint smell of dog food. Someone did once explain that to me, but I've long since forgot. And finally, mother, this is the man I mentioned. He'll fix it all. If you ever deal with the geriatric, you will know two things. Everything happened yesterday, recently, or just a few years ago, up to and including both world wars and the Apollo program. You're going nowhere without a story. I take the seat offered to me and begin my "so, what's the problem?" In the style of the generation wiser than my own, she spoke to us both at the same time and in the same breath. A few years ago, Jerry here bought me a computer to replace my electric typewriter. Didn't you, Jerry? I love writing stories, poems, accounts, and it's so handy to have digital text files instead of binder after binder. Jerry helped me type in all the binders. Over 5,000 sheets. It kept me busy. It's good to revisit your older work with fresh eyes. Now, if you'd be a polite host and get our guest a nice drink, I'll show him what's bothering me. A tea later, and I'm being shown error after error. Invalid page faults, general protection faults. The OS styling was old. Windows 98-ish or so, I thought. Then the big blue screen popped up, and kept popping up. At this point, we rebooted or got stuck in the cycle of fatal exception. 0E0E is an invalid page fault. A page was referenced, but not found anywhere. Driver memory mapping, buggy software, Windows 9X being crap at memory management, etc. I may have muttered while this is old in the sun, Jerry had said. It's more than a few years. Don't let the flat screen deceive you, that replaced the original old TV-style monitor. I bought it from Rumbelows in what must have been 1996 or so. Rumbelows had gone under in 1995, and hadn't ever turned a profit, but some stores continued trading in a new name, which was variously ignored by the customers as they continued selling the same thing. Okay, I said, can I see the computer itself? You don't move an old person's furniture without asking. That's how you lose a hand or worse. The PC was nestled between a curtain and the back of the bureau, its I/O hardware adorned. The black and red logo practicing antisemitism, ESCOM, stared back at me. I was merely a callow youth when ESCOM crashed and burned. A friend's dad had an ESCOM Pentium 90 which played a Star Wars game we all loved. I'm now an entry-level graybeard and this machine predated my career. The Intel Inside sticker was red, not blue. I had a quick inventory of the hardware. PCI video card, S3 Trio based with empty PLCC sockets for more RAM, 2 dissimilar 72-pin SIMs, so it had clearly been upgraded at some point. CPU was under a small black anodized aluminium heatsink with a little 40mm fan on top of it. Socket 5 or socket 7. With enough determination, this was possibly reparable, but there was no way I could source enough parts to do fault finding on it. Probably bad RAM. Maybe a weakening PSU. I didn't care enough for something so old. My theory was that it was bought with half the RAM it had, probably 4 megabytes, and upgraded. The motherboard had the memory bus at 32 bits, not the 64 bits later Pentiums used, so SIMs didn't need to be in identical pairs. The spec was probably sold with Windows 3.x, or just DOS on it, then a Windows 95 upgrade later bore out the need for more RAM. The old dear saw me poking around inside it and sat beside me. Is it just too old? I know a thing or two about being too old. Words are spoken very carefully. The computer had reached the end of its life, but these were not the correct words to use. As some of the parts get older, they degrade, kind of wearing out. That's happened here. 10, 15 years or so ago, I might have had stock of some of them, or been able to get something in here working. This is a 1994 model, it's 25 years old. I don't have any parts and I can't get any. Of course it is dear. Jerry bought it for my retirement a few years ago. What really concerns me are my files. Are they there? Plugging the HDD into a USB multi-port, SATA plus 40-pin ATA plus 44-pin ATA, and a mains to Molex 4 for power got it up and running on my Windows 10 laptop. Which was entirely happy about the fat 16 400 megabytes HDD, showing it as a USB drive like any other. A tiny and glacially slow one, but a USB drive like any other. The time an ancient HDD is most likely to fail is the time it's disturbed from its eternal resting place, so I made copies, just in case. All the files were there, meticulously ordered WordPerfect files. This was non-negotiable. The final state must include WordPerfect 7. You don't ask a 90-year-old to learn something new when she's been doing the same thing and meeting all her needs for the last few years, when those few years predate your entire career. Saying why not try MS Word would have gone down like a bad case of coronavirus was about to. So we replaced the machine with a NUC and a new monitor, because a corner CFL of the existing monitor had died. WordPerfect 7, which we had CDs for, does not work on Windows 10. Hell, it's debatable as to whether it worked on Windows 95. A quick search found people struggling to make it work on XP. I phone a much more experienced graybeard. I have a problem. I need WordPerfect 7 working on something modern. Let me let you into some history. MS Office changes its UI every so often for no identifiable reason. WordPerfect does not. Find a copy of WordPerfect Office X5 somewhere. The UI hasn't changed since the dawn of time. X5 worked at least in Vista, so you've a good chance of getting it going on 10. They did some changes in X6 which annoyed a lot of the old-timers. That's a last resort. The requisite WordPerfect Office X5 was obtained and loaded onto the NUC. It took some persuading to make it work, and maybe X6 or X7 would have been a better idea. WordPerfect is very far outside my sphere of competency, but make it work I did. I found a tool to migrate quick corrects from an old format to a new one, and copied over her custom keystrokes, but she interrupted me on that one. Oh young man, you've done enough for me. I know how to set up WordPerfect. I used it for years and years in the legal profession. Her fingers merrily danced over the keyboard, striking various Control and Alt modifiers, and using the right Control key, a clear sign of a transcended power. Jerry. It's fixed. Look. She loads up an utterly professional Christmas events program. I'll get it finished and to the printers in time. The joy on the matriarch's face was infectious, and within moments we were all laughing. They paid me about triple my usual rate, wouldn't listen to my protests. At her kind of age, happiness is all you have left, explained Jerry. What's money if you're not happy? I'm allergic to chemicals, you're going to buy me a new computer. This memory popped on my timeline this morning. Used to run a computer repair shop. One of the standard operating procedures was, of course, to dust out the fans with compressed air. We also ran down the entire repair manifest with the customer at pickup time. This eliminated the "well, you never told me you." Or "why is it $85 when all you had to do was," so we tell her we tested all of the output voltages, dusted the system fans. At which point she exploded. You did what? You used chemicals on my computer. No, we dusted out your computer. With chemicals? No, we have an air compressor in the back, it has a moisture dryer on it, and is piped to all of the workbenches. It's just compressed air. But it's a machine, so it puts chemicals into the air, and I'm allergic to chemicals. Ma'am, no, I assure you any traces of chemicals would have long dissipated if that were even possible. You're going to buy me a new computer. This is outrageous. No one told you to spray chemicals on my computer. Ma'am, let me get this straight, you want us to buy you a new computer, of which the parts are made in China, with all sorts of chemicals used in the manufacturing process to give to you. Well, she huffed and puffed and stormed out. And this is how, after 22 years of retail service, I just can't deal with customer service anymore. Saved a perfectly good printer from ID10T resilsing. This happened a few months ago. Background. I work for an MSP, and was on site doing cleanup work after a switch replacement over the weekend. I was just about to leave when one of my coworkers asked me to look at a printer issue they had been troubleshooting for the past few days. They needed verification that the printer was completely dead so they could order a new one. They had spent at least 4 collective hours troubleshooting the printer remotely. So I mosey on over to the printer and ask the users to show me what's happening. They send the print job, nothing prints out. I look at the printer after the test print is sent, and it's waiting for a paper tray verification. I hit OK to specify the paper size, then at least 50 documents start printing out. The users are ecstatic, singing my praises as the savior of printers. Notified my colleagues and they all had a good laugh, and they canceled the quote for the new printer they were about to order.